Grace. Wednesday's child is full of woe betide anyone who casts a skewed glance at Marika today. She is weary of thick-hearted laundry bags and grimy grout. She washes and scrubs and searches under dark and dusty beds for divorced socks, sometimes finding petrified sandwiches, once a mouse whose game of statues ceased upon her touch. This is just one of 3 jobs Marika toils at. On weekends she wears a truncated and badly hemmed skirt and serves drinks at a swank boutique brewery. The glass-fronted bar sparkles and shimmers from the ground floor of a high-rise nestled between 2 other buildings at various stages of completion. The zone looks like a giant's Meccano block amusement, complete with crane and silver rod scaffolding. But the works don't deter the customers from swanning in for their various froth-topped glasses, chattering about the deep straw colour or the long bitter finish. There's a smattering of wines available, but the wankiness is generally reserved for the beer talk. Marika's final money-making venture is Uber driving, which affords her a strange voyeuristic excitement. On designated days she checks her app and ventures off to high-demand areas. She meets businessmen and call girls and couples on first dates or old pairs going out for their wedding anniversaries. She drove a famous tennis player clear across town, and he said, "You never saw me," as he paid her 3 times what the trip was worth. She calculates she is 2 months away from cashing in for her Greek island sojourn, to dip her toes into the sea of her ancestors. Snapshots of the Mediterranean and fantasies of dark-eyed lovers help her get through her Domestos Wednesdays. She sings to keep her eyes sparkling and her cheeks dry, but today the breath of the old black dog blows at her nape. She is both slumped by burden and pulled taut with stress. Thursday's child has far to go to hell, Billy, with your karma and your smile, and the whole world smiles with you, and your life wasn't meant to be easy fucking bullshit that you spout constantly and don't seem to realise that no one wants to hear because it just doesn't make anyone feel any better. And look at you smiling that smug grin and pretending you're some old soul, and I have to live 1,000 shitty lives before I will reach your level of cosmic understanding. And also, I don't care about your latest fucking yoga pose. In fact, you look like you're trying to take a dump, and it is gross. And by the way, who the hell told you mustard is an acceptable colour against your skin? And anyway, you shouldn't wear those muscle shirts because you don't really have any brawn, and I'm thinking maybe if you ate a pie and some chips instead of all those fucking seeds, you might look a bit less pasty. And then, well, you could probably even wear bright yellow if you really wanted to. And I don't even know how you and I became friends, and anyway, I'm going for a bit, and I'll tell you something else for nothing. Oh, never mind, just fuck off. Friday's child is loving, and giving away more than a week's pay is not something Derek is keen to do. His son is constantly discussing the merits of tithing, and his eldest daughter goes on and on about the poor homeless sleeping under the bridge. In fact, Sasha plans to sleep outside all night in the numbing cold, which leaves Derek dumbfounded. This is Australia, he tells her. There's no need for anyone, least of all you and your friends, to be sleeping under a bridge. But, Daddy, this is how some people live. And I'm saying there's no excuse. They get social security, don't they? Doesn't guarantee them a bed if there's no room at the inn. Oh, don't start talking in religious parables, please. She looks a little glassy-eyed, and he can't stand to see her hurt, so he pulls her towards his well-fed body and folds his bulky arms around her. Sasha, honey, I already said I would donate the money. I just don't see how you help anyone by sleeping out in the cold. It raises awareness, Daddy. She sighs loudly. It occurs to him that they all sigh at him like that. His wife when he notices a new hairstyle 10 days too late. His son when Derek admits that he has still not found the time to read the 7 Stages of Happiness book Billy gave him for Father's Day. Sasha sighs at him constantly, almost daily, for a plethora of reasons. And now his youngest has started too. Suki is only 4, and when Derek tells her he can't take her to the park because he has to go to work, she lifts her shoulders, siphons in a stream of air before exhaling with a loud whine. Derek himself sighs as he donates his pay to the homeless, but smiles knowing his daughter will post her pride all over Facebook and then tweet her night in a swag out to the Twitter sphere. Saturday's child works hard for a living like a queen, high on the hog, silver spooning it. Lindy has always pretended to work hard, but truth be told, it has never been necessary. She runs a business in some form or another at all times, is good for her ego and good for appearances. But her real business is the business of taking. With her looks and secret street smarts, it's a doddle, simple as growing weed under fluorescence, and if the men end up emotionally battered, well, that's just their foolishness. She has thick scarlet lips and wide coal-lined eyes, perfectly shaped brows and a lush lignite mane, breasts slightly augmented, sensual hips just shy of lusty, legs elongated and curves accentuated by the height and angle of her stilettos. She gives the Rolex wearers a hint of herself, throws clues that are impossible to ignore, carves out puzzles they itch to solve, and then she dances them to her signature tune. She is a puppeteer perfecting her craft. She preens and promises, and they leave wives and jobs and throw real estate and holidays at her, and when she's done, she leaves them alone as wrecks, homeless, alcohol-drenched or drug-addicted. They all end up as puddles of evaporated possibilities. And if they come at her, she shifts the money and the real estate. She moves luxury cars, hawks the Tiffany bracelets, and changes addresses. She bankrupts herself. Her slate is clean. A new business, new man, onwards and upwards. But the child that is born on the Sabbath day is bonny and blithe and good and gay, you say? My son? But surely not. What about that pretty girl Rebecca in year 10? They went to a weird techno party and he came home tipsy with his jumper on back to front and we chuckled behind his back. Remember? Nudge, nudge, wink, wink and all that palaver? Coop is suddenly terrified. What will his friends say if they find out? Priscilla is smiling that faint, far-off gleam she gets from time to time. Scylla, this is serious. You've got to keep this stuff to yourself. You can't go telling people. Besides, you're quite possibly mistaken. I can't see how we, two heterosexual liberals, could produce a raging homosexual. Well, of course raging is the right word. They're all raging, aren't they? Homosexual? Yes, Scylla, that is how you pronounce it. Sweat runs down between Coop's shoulder blades. There's an alumni meeting on Thursday and the reunion next month. He can't cop this. It's just not on. Priscilla, concentrate, will you? Please, my love. All right, we will just agree to use that word then. Gay. But what about the football and the rowing and the visuals? We can strike that from the record. Be serious, you say? Serious? How can I possibly take this seriously? He had to get his wife on his team regardless of where his son was standing with his bat. Billy had gone to Cooper's old school, shared trips with the sons of his illustrious friends. It was a ridiculous scenario. Gay. Cooper moved his head from side to side, an eraserhead, rubbing out the word. Gay? I can't believe Billy said that, Scylla. I'm sure you heard wrong. What about the Playboy magazines we found under the floorboards in the boat shed? What? Yours? If Priscilla was going to go so far as to claim porn as her own, then he had a chance. Coop was sure he could convince her to keep her mouth shut. He simply had to. What on earth would you be doing with pornographic magazines? What do you mean, lesbian leanings? Since when, for Christ's sake? Well, that would have been different. I could have watched. Ouch! The corner of the magazine hit him right in the temple. That hurt. Bloody hurt. Priscilla, please. Scylla, where are you going? Now you listen to me, woman. I demand that you come right back this minute and we will... He was talking to a closed door. Monday's child is fair. Face it, Louise, we're living in a zoo. The Wilsons' maid has had a nervous breakdown. They found her sobbing in their atrium, cradling a half-dead rodent. Derek's kids put some of his bank statements on Facebook and accused him of siphoning off funds to his mistress while pretending it was a donation to the homeless. The mistress, by the way, is that friend of your sister's. Turns out Lindy Bluechip, living in the 3-story on the bay, is actually a serial bankrupt. She's left a trail of business creditors and ex-lovers mangled on train tracks and pavements all over Sydney and Melbourne. These are our neighbours, Louise. You'd think the whole city has spun around and we're living on the outer west all of a sudden. Oh, and guess what? Big old ex-rugby player Cooper from 2 doors down, you know, the one who brags about going to that elite university. His son's gay. Yes, I had a fair idea too, Louise, but turns out Derek's wife has left him to go to India to explore her religion. Secretly, Pete told me she's gone to Norway to explore her sexuality. Tuesday's child is full of Grace feels like her world keeps lurching sideways. Her workmate at the bar has had some sort of episode and quit, leaving behind a cryptic note about being full of woe and she's afraid of mice and something about the Mediterranean being too far away. Grace is working at triple pace, multitasking on autopilot. Her boss is upset because his wife has left him and he's under enormous pressure due to a forthcoming reunion with his college buddies. Apparently the stress has something to do with his son being gay. Billy, Grace's friend since grade 1, has decided that after almost 20 years as a vegan, he's going to live carnivorously and therefore can no longer be friends with Grace, despite the fact that she has meat-eating friends. When she points this out to Billy, he says he doesn't care because he's no longer going to wear the mustard shirt she gave him for his birthday, and he's ditching yoga for powerlifting. Billy's father is about to lose the architect-designed cantilevered family home that arcs out over the lapping waves, so Billy is going to live with a bunch of builders who work on the building site next door. Grace's boss knows Billy's father and says the bankruptcy will be because of that fucking Lindy tart. As if on cue, in walks Lindy, all soft curls and pouting lips, and Grace's boss forgets what he's